Hello, welcome to Wake Up to the Bible. I'm Daniel Kaplan. I'm here with my father, Dr. Mark Kaplan, and we are reading through the books of the law. And we're doing the traditional Jewish cycle of readings. So our second reading's fairly short, just 15 chapters. It begins in, oh, sorry, yeah, 15 chapters wouldn't be too short. 15 verses, starting chapter 2 and verse 4 to chapter 19. And I'll be reading from the Robert Alter translation. This is the tale of the heavens and the earth when they were created. On the day the Lord God made earth and heavens, no shrub of the field being yet on the earth, and no plant of the field yet sprouted, for the Lord God had not caused rain to fall on the earth, and there was no human to till the soil, and wetness would well from the earth to water all the surface of the soil. Then the Lord God fashioned the human, humus from the soil, and blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and the human became a living creature. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden to the east, and he placed there the human he had fashioned. And the Lord God caused to sprout from the soil every tree lovely to look at and good for food. And the tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge good and evil. Now a river runs out of Eden to water the garden, and from there splits off into four streams. The name of the first is Pishon, the one that winds through the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is goodly. Dulam is there, and lapis lazuli. And the name of the second river is Gihon, the one that winds through all the land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Tigris, the one that goes to the east of Asher. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And the Lord God took the human and set him down in the Garden of Eden to till and watch it. And the Lord God commanded the human, saying, From every tree of the garden you may surely eat. From the tree, but from the tree of knowledge, good and evil, you shall not eat. For on the day you eat from it, you are doomed to die. And the Lord God said, It is not good for the human to be alone. I shall make a sustainer beside him. And the Lord God fashioned from the soil each beast of the field and each fowl of the heavens, and brought each to the human to see what he would call it. And whatever the human called a living creature, that was its name. All right, so
Edit.
yes.
I think these two dots. I don't know if that indicates a long U, but this humus is. When you say hummus, it sounds like.
Oh, yes, yes. You don't have to edit that. You're right. I think I did say that wrong. It is humus.
Yeah.
Yes.
You said hummus, and I was thinking.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's funny. We should leave that in. Yes, I accidentally read it hummus, and it's of course humus because he's trying to play on the etymological pun of Adam from the soil, Adamah. So he's doing. So I'm sorry, Robert Alter. I did you, but it should be God fashioned the human humus from the soil. That's much better. Although I do like hummus, it's delicious.
He made Adam from Adamah.
Yes.
Right. Like a reddish. It also implies a reddish color. Much of the soil has that kind of reddish tint to it. There are various kinds of soil, of course. Speaking of hummus, though, when I first moved to Florida, I was in a grocery store, and I went to a fellow who worked in the store, and I said, "Where's hummus?" And he said to me, "Does he work here?" That's a true story.
And now hummus is
Yeah,
ever present
yeah,
and
right.
finding its way into my reading. Now, one thing I will say about this passage that some people misconstrue that I've heard before is that because it says God had not caused rain to fall on the earth, for some reason people get the notion that that never changes, and then when they get to the flood, it's like they had never seen rain before. I've seen this done all the time. There was just the Sights and Sounds musical that did it lately. It's kind of goofy, but that's obviously not what that passage is getting at. But
I would agree with you on that. It seems from the geography described that we're dealing with the perhaps the Persian Gulf region, or we're dealing with the area today called Iraq. Most people would believe that the origin of human civilization is in Iraq, the Euphrates River still exists, and there's various rivers mentioned there, and four rivers. There's a restaurant around here with that name, but
for that reason to some extent.
Yeah, right. And I would suppose the Hindu tradition of the Ganges being some kind of sacred river may go back to this idea of the Garden of Eden and the four rivers that branched out from it.
It is interesting that you have so much, that you have much more about the geography than you seem to have about Adam here. It's just kind of an interesting literary choice that we're given so much placing, but I think to some extent that might be to kind of ground the work, right? To really establish it as a genuine location because it's giving you all this detailed information.
Yes, I think that's a good point to establish the historicity of the account. I'd also like to mention that Adam was given a responsibility from the beginning to address and keep the garden. So he wasn't just loafing around. He actually did have work to do.
He wasn't just sitting on a cloud playing his harp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, what's interesting is that the account goes out of its way to talk about trees being attractive to look at. And again, sometimes people will want to get, what is it, aestheticism, you know, where it's
Right,
like
yeah.
the way to be righteous is not to think about things as beautiful or engage in physicality. And obviously that I mean I don't think that you can make a claim that this would go against that, right? Because why would God make something that's attractive to look at if we're not supposed to be worried about such things as righteous people? Obviously, Adam wasn't fully righteous, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to sin. But I hope you understand my point. This is pre-fall Adam. Um, the other thing, yeah, I totally agree too that you have the also the work that it is that they are supposed to do. But I like the way that this passage was put together. I think the reason why they did it is because you kind of start in the mud and then you end in the mud, and it's so humbling when you read it like that, because it really is just everything's coming from the mud, and it gives humans a very humble origin.
But at the same time, you see the value placed on Adam, that he names the animals. One of his responsibilities is to take a look at the animals and give them names, and that's a very fascinating thing to consider, as to how many he dealt with and how he came up with names for them.
Yeah. Well, there's a certain amount of time crunching, right? Because obviously he didn't spend all that day doing it. He couldn't have, right? I think that's speaking more as a general thing, right? That over time he got to do, because in an afternoon, how many different animals are you going to be able to see?
But Eve was created on the sixth day with Adam,
Right.
and evidently he did some of that at least on the sixth day, so that he could see, well, all these animals are paired off and I'm not. Evidently that was part of what God was doing, giving Adam the idea. Oh, I see it. All these living things have a partner and I don't.
Right. Yeah. No sustainer beside him could be found. It was to give him a sense of incompleteness before that would be addressed. Yeah, makes sense for sure. All right. Any other comments about this segment before we close things off for our little chat today?
No.
All right. Well, you can join us for the next episode, and we'll be discussing the third reading, which is going to be a little bit longer. It's a whole chapter. I think it basically deals with the expulsion of the Garden of Eden. So certainly a lot of material to discover on that. We'll see you there.